Welcome back everyone, it's me Matt. Really appreciate you being on today's video. If you want to be notified of some upcoming content, make sure you click on that little bell button. So we're talking about self-propelled howitzers today. Yes, the DITA gun, which is, I have to say, one of the most impressive self-propelled gun howitzers out there of today. Now, you all know that I do love my tracked fighting vehicles. You do know that I also love the artillery, being a current serving gunner. But I do feel like tracked howitzers are slowly becoming a thing of the past and may potentially never exist in the next 10 to 20 years due to the number of reasons why, which I can talk about in another video another day. But this particular vehicle that we're going to talk about today, which is the DITA self-propelled howitzer, is the reason primarily why, is because wheeled vehicles are a lot more capable and cost-effective than it is tracked vehicles. Trust me, I've worked on tracked vehicles. I know the cost required to maintain and operate tracked vehicles for long periods of time, and you know, the artillery is developing in all aspects, whether it be, you know, firepower, projectile type, target acquisition, etc. There's huge amounts of developments going on with artillery of today. Rocket-assisted projectiles as well being a huge thing. But today we're going to focus on the DITA and how it's something that I really do feel is going to be the future of artillery when it comes to self-propelled equipment. Now, the DITA is a self-propelled gun, which is a new modern artillery weapon using the NATO standard 155mm standard ammunition, and it derives from the original Czechoslovak concept of the Tatra truck-mounted howitzer, but it takes its autonomy and the operation to the next level. It is extremely advanced, and some of its key features really do set it aside from some of the other self-propelled guns out there. Now, we know of other self-propelled guns on wheeled platforms out there, the Dana. We also have, obviously, Archer. There's some really capable wheeled vehicles that already use the 155mm platform for fire, and it's doing very well, and they're all doing very well. Personally, I would love if Canada could acquire a wheeled self-propelled howitzer like this, but it's probably not going to happen. The DITA offers a very unprecedented rate of fire with only 2 members of crew required. That's all you need, 2 members. It does have a firing range with a standard NATO round of 39 kilometers. And a off-road speed of up to 60 to 70 kilometers an hour, and a on-road speed of 90 to 100 kilometers an hour. So this thing flies. It features a very modern onboard control system with high speed in taking up and levering the firing position, which is key and crucial in modern artillery capabilities, because the shoot and scoot principle has never been more specific and needed in today's modern battlefield. The days of setting up large batteries and firing against one another from distance and holding ground is not really the case anymore. As I've talked about in many of my videos in the past, rocket artillery, counter-battery artillery fire is becoming extremely effective, and the self-propelled or shoot-and-scoot maneuver or capability is something that is being developed and increased upon every single time a new derivative of artillery comes out. And I really do feel this is going to be the narrative and the standard of artillery for the future in the next 10 to 20 years for sure. The concept itself with the DITA really does utilize a fully autonomous superstructure, and it's possible for the weapon to be mounted also on a track chassis if it needs to, but for this capability it's focusing on the wheeled capability. The DITA is equipped with a very powerful onboard control system, which contains diagnostics, navigation, automatic gun guidance, automatic calculation of shooting elements, ammunition management. It's got tons of automation inside of it. It's literally like a giant robotic computer with a gun on the back of it, and the crew members are just there for the ride. I mean that in every sense of the word. The OCS is very reliable. It's accurate as well in actually guiding the gun onto the requested direction and the data that's been given from the command post. These tend to work in a singular basis. They're not working in battery format, which is interesting. A tactic that you don't normally see in the artillery is an individual gun doing its own thing. I guess, you know, MLRS tend to utilize the rocket artillery in that configuration, but even then they tend to have a battery configuration or a regiment configuration of the guns. But this has been designed to be almost like a renegade. It does its own thing. It goes out, it fires a couple of rounds, meets up with a couple of other vehicles, resupplies, and off it goes again, which is cool. Really interesting doctrine and a different style of capabilities. The gun itself is a 155mm 45 caliber length barrel. It uses standard ammunition that can range up to 39 kilometers, as I mentioned before, with high explosive. There's different firing modes available, including single round, rapid fire, which is a delay setting that allows it to fire, multiple rounds in sequence and land on point at a delayed time. So it basically means the gun can fire around, elevate, fire around, and or depress, I guess, and all the rounds simultaneously hit the target. So it's not firing quicker, it's firing in a sequence that allows the rounds to land on point. You can also have programmed ammunition on this weapon system as well. So lots and lots of, firepower capabilities, which is pretty standard across most of the spectrums of self-propelled artillery of today. Thanks to the fully automated system, the vehicle, as I said, is only mounted by 2 members of crew, the driver and commander. There's no loader, there's no, I guess, technically gunner actually operating the sighting system. It's controlled through an automated system. The crew protection is pretty good. It's fairly low, however. It does have a overpressured cab to keep all that nastiness out if there's NBC requirements. And it does have level 1 protection according to STANAG 4569, which isn't hugely capable. It's not designed to take on IEDs, etc. It can stop small arms, 7.62, potentially 12.5mm, but nothing too much more than that. And it's not designed to. Artillery platforms like this are designed to be way behind, 39 kilometers away from the front for the most part. They shouldn't be coming across any sort of high-intensity equipment, sort of tanks and AFVs or IFVs or any kind of armored capability. It may stop by some SF or Special Forces sneaking in the woodline, but if you're coming up against that, they're probably going to have anti-tank capabilities anyway, so you don't have a huge say in that matter. The vehicle does also have an auxiliary power and hydraulic unit. It's a 24-volt hydraulic unit that serves as the main source for the weapon system, turret operation, and other configurations inside the vehicle. So the main engine doesn't need to be running, which keeps this as what we call silent watch capability. So it's a less heat signature required engine, and it's also a less noise required engine. So those 2 signatures on the battlefield are very important, especially from, say, drone technology or acoustic signature that could be picked up by reconnaissance or surveillance or ISTAR capabilities, and has the capability of battery charging radios throughout the battle group. So it has a specific charging unit that can charge all the radios if necessary for other elements of the forces that are around them, whether it be, the infantry or everything else. So really, really good for communications too. It does have a upgraded communication suite to allow it to communicate with ISTAR satellite capabilities, along with drones and all that good stuff. So really what it's trying to do is gather as much information as it can, not just from the command post that the vehicle may be belonging to, such as the regiment or the artillery-based information. It can also communicate with other battle group assets, such as armored, infantry, engineers, whatever it may be, to take a whole suite of information and use it to their advantage, which is really good because it adds capability to the battle group commanders saying, hey, if the CP gets knocked out, which in all reality could happen, if your command post of the artillery unit you're working with is smashed by counter-battery artillery fire or some sort of airstrike, this vehicle can still gather data from other resources and assets, such as the infantry using an observation post, gather details from there, and the computer can actually calculate the firing solution instead of the command post, which is really impressive. With only 2 crew on this thing, you're basically taking over the roles of, say, 15 people, which is, a huge offload of work needed for this crew with the automation. Now, when it comes to technology, of course, things can go wrong. We have issues with, hacking, things like that. So there's obviously things that need to be, I guess, addressed from that side. How that works is obviously going to be a classified nature. Of course, as you can see, it is also auto-loading. So with only the 2 crew members, the ammunition is quite easily pumped into the breech of this gun quite quickly. Storage of the gun is also very quick. Can lock in place and pull up the pistons from securing the trails very quickly to reallocate its resources somewhere else and shoot and scoot somewhere else into a firing position. The gun is also equipped with a automatic setting action position, or ASAP, which is a nice little acronym there, which is a ammunition management and inertial navigation system which greatly enhance the speed and the task of execution for firing of the gun. So what the gun actually does is it predicts the next fire mission and what the ammunition is required for. It can actually pre-program its fuses before it even gets there. So instead of setting up at the point of fire, getting all the fuses pre-programmed and pre-armed, wasting time when actually putting rounds down, the driver, or the commander, not the driver, the commander can actually input the data to the gun, and en route to the next fire mission, the gun and the ammunition is programmed, ready to go. So they're basically pulling up, they input the data, pulls over, the gun spins round, ammunition is already primed with the fuse correction setting, whatever it may be, and the round goes off, and then they move again. So This is huge. Automatic gun guiding basically allows the crew to just drive. There's not much else they have to do other than input targets and the data and drive. The computer takes over everything else. I must admit, it does make me a little nervous knowing that a computer is taking full control of 155mm of projectile downrange. Of course, I'm sure there's some fail-safes in there, but it is still quite nerve-wracking. When we talk about automation, which, as I said, I really do feel in the next 10 to 20 years is going to be the future of artillery, which makes me a little sad because it somewhat puts me out of a job. But this is a reality we're looking at. You know, further projectiles, longer distance projectiles, say rocket-assisted projectiles, which is ironic actually because the Excalibur, being a assisted projectile, is the name of the company that he produces the DITA. It's called Excalibur Army, or EA. So they're the people who are actually producing this vehicle. It's new. It's pretty brand new anyway. And, the fact that projectiles are going further and the vehicle's more automated, this is what's going to be the game changer on the battlefield of artillery today. It's not going to be fixed gun positions holding in, cam nets in a wood line. It's going to be this. It really is going to be this. Now, this vehicle is also quite capable in prolonging its fire missions. What I mean by that is it doesn't need to resupply very quickly, and that's something that is really detrimental to a firing position or an artillery piece, is its resupply. Getting rounds to the gun is challenging, whether it be via a truck, helo, whatever it may be. 155mm of projectile plus bag charges, that's a lot of stuff to shift around. This vehicle can hold 40 rounds. That's pretty good. You're basically talking about the truck is in itself holding its own ammunition with a gun on the top of it and being fully mobile and autonomous with only 2 people. So that is another game changer. 40 rounds with a range of up to 39 kilometers. Think of the spread of capability you could have with 4 of these vehicles. When we look at the M777, of course, a very formidable field artillery piece, which is technically obviously not mobile as such. It's there to be dug in place with the trails, hooked back onto the truck, and off it goes again. The setup time for that does take time. Laying in recording of the gun, although still utilizing electronic data and using, other assets around the area to lay in of the gun. It's a pretty time-consuming process. We're talking about a crew of, 6 to 7 troops, maybe more, plus a CP and all the additional resources resupply to get that. This vehicle is taking all of that, well, not all of it, I would say about 60 to 70% of that infrastructure needed to operate it out of the picture. Folks, I don't want to say it because it hurts me to say, but this will be the future of artillery. I'm not a subject matter expertise, okay? I'm a young gunner. I've only been in the artillery community and family for a short while. I take huge pride and passion in it. I certainly am not preaching saying that I know everything about artillery and this will be the future. This is just an opinionated, video and to give you some update and understanding of what the DITA is. But I really do feel with the capabilities this vehicle brings to the table and developing upon these capabilities in the next 10 to 20 years, field artillery such as the M777, things like that, will become, I wouldn't say obsolete, but less specific or less relatable to certain tasks or requirements the artillery has in the future. Because what this vehicle can do is negating so many concerns and issues that a field artillery gun would have, i.e. a gun in placed position. And it's cool. It's really cool. And it's exciting looking at vehicles like this. I know this isn't new in terms of its concept. There's a lot of wheeled self-propelled guns out there. I've done videos on them. You can go check them out. But for me, this one really is just a little bit different in the way that it really has a huge amount of reliance upon automation. The great thing about this, though, is it does have backup and redundant processes in there too. So the vehicle can operate in a manual configuration if necessary, i.e. the loader and the gunner can operate this gun in a standardized normal gun position setup. If the, say, hydraulics fail or the autoloader fails or the calibration for optics, etc., for utilizing the aiming of the gun fails, it can all be superseded by manual control, which is important. There's no point spending all this money on this vehicle. A few little, fuses fail and the whole thing's useless. You just got like a, $700,000 junk. It doesn't do anything just because of a couple small electrical components. And we know what electrics does, especially in the field, cold, wet, hot conditions. It fails. It fails often. I've experienced that with all sorts of equipment in my military career. And sometimes tried and tested, tried and true works best. Standard artillery, colorimeter, sights, optics, data, math, maps, and off you go. And good thing that this vehicle still relies upon old school gunnery to maintain that secondary backup plan in case something goes wrong electronically, which I think is really important. So that's the DITA, folks. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you learned something about this little impressive weapons platform. If you want to know more, do some research. If you've got more information to tell me about this vehicle, please let me know. I'd love to hear your opinion on it. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave me a like. It really does help that YouTube algorithm somewhat like me because it hates military content. I'd like to do a massive shout out and thank you to everyone who supports my Patreon, my PayPal, and also that are members of my channel supporting me on a financial basis. I really cannot thank you enough. Truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. If you want to be notified of any upcoming videos in the future, click that little bell by the subscribe button so you can be notified when I release new videos. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.